I do notice that a lot of couples who haven't learned to fight the right way, who haven't learned to adopt this mindset, do end up in arguments that go round and around. Where if you were really to take a step back and pay attention to what's being said, is that both of you are not feeling understood. Both of you are not feeling heard. And therefore, you are just being defensive, maybe even critical of each other. But the actual issue at hand is not coming up to the surface and it's not being dealt with. And essentially, it's a battle of the egos. Welcome to the Marriage and Motherhood Podcast. I'm your host, Michelle Perda. As a marriage coach who's married with 3 kids, I know how much parenthood could change a marriage. If flirting, laughing, and having fun together feels like a thing of the past, then I'm here to teach you that marriage doesn't have to feel so hard with your parents, and your marriage can thrive even when you're in the season of raising kids. Whether you're in a good place in your marriage and you just want to continue growing together, or you're wondering if you even like your spouse anymore, this podcast has something for you. Join me here each week as we dive into what it takes to help your marriage grow, and maybe even do a 180. You'll learn ways to handle conflict better, bring that spark back into your relationship, as well as learn how to improve other areas of your life from my lovely guest experts. Are you ready for the next stage of your life and marriage? Let's dive in. Hello. Welcome back to another episode of the Marriage and Motherhood Podcast. Today, we're going to be talking about something that I've been noticing has had such a huge impact on my marriage, on my clients' marriages, and that is the kind of mindset that you have when it comes to handling challenges inside of your marriage. Now, what I've noticed, both in myself and other people, is that those who grew up in a family where criticism was a norm and where you weren't given the benefit of the doubt, you were just in trouble right away, assumptions were being made, there wasn't much conversation going on, that it's very easy to go from feeling like everything is fine and dandy in your marriage because you're getting along to all of a sudden, maybe your husband forgets to do something, or he's having an off day, or he's not paying as much attention to you, that we can quickly go to judging and criticizing and feeling like they have wronged us, essentially feeling betrayed. And when we jump to that line of thinking, that's what gets us in trouble. That's what lands us in this trap of arguing that goes nowhere because you haven't taken the time to really figure things out on your own. You're letting your brain and your emotions take over, and your spouse feels attacked. He feels like he's not understood, and he feels like he is just seen as the worst person ever. You are now enemies instead of partners. And so I wanted to share the best mindset that you can have to navigate around this and prevent all of this unnecessary drama that you might be experiencing in your relationship. Because I do notice that a lot of couples who haven't learned to fight the right way, who haven't learned to adopt this mindset, do end up in arguments that go round and around. Where if you were really to take a step back and pay attention to what's being said, is that both of you are not feeling understood. Both of you are not feeling heard, and therefore you are just being defensive, maybe even critical of each other. But the actual issue at hand is not coming up to the surface and it's not being dealt with. And so you go round and around defending yourselves. And essentially, it's a battle of the egos. And so I wanted to share with you today one way, one hack that you can start doing to prevent all of that. Because really, who has time to be arguing in circles but not actually end up resolving the problem, right? Because for me, in my experience and what I've seen in my clients, is that when you have difficulty identifying what the real issue is, you don't ever solve it. And what ends up happening is you experience it one way, you sweep it under the rug, and then it comes back up in another form, in another incident, maybe not exactly identical, but the root issue is still the same. And you're going to continue to experience it like that on repeat until you figure out how to navigate it because the issue is not being solved. Okay? It's kind of like when you have a cold and you just give yourself cold medicine. You're not actually helping yourself get better. You are masking the symptoms. Meanwhile, you're still eating like shit. You're eating sugar, you're eating dairy, you're eating things that are not helping your immune system kick the germs' butts. And you're wondering why your cold has been lingering around for so long. But if you didn't do the cold medicine and you kind of figured out, oh, I have a cold, um, I have a respiratory issue, then yeah, like, until you know what's the actual issue, you won't know what to do to help yourself. You won't be like, oh, I need extra rest. I need extra fluids. I need to go see the doctor because my mucus is turning green, like whatever, right? Like, maybe this isn't the best example, but I'm hoping that you're following, right? Until you can figure out what the real problem is, you're going to keep encountering it in different ways. And your marriage gets to be better than that. It gets to be filled with more joy than challenges, right? Your marriage is never going to be immune to challenges. Like, I wish I had that magical wand for you and just be like, bippity boppity boop, like, we're good. But no, it doesn't work like that. You're going to always experience challenges. But how often you experience challenges and how many times you experience the same challenges is absolutely under your control, something that you can help, something that you can do stuff about. And so, with that said, if you are wanting to get away from always getting into the same fights, always feeling like you guys don't get each other, always feeling like conflict is driving a big fat wedge between you and your spouse instead of bringing you closer together, which really is the purpose of conflict, okay? Conflict is here to show you where your differences are and where you can understand each other better, where you can learn more about each other, where you can decide, how can we realign ourselves so that we can be partners again? Okay. Conflict is just like a flashlight showing you where you can notice something you haven't noticed before. Notice something about yourself, maybe. Oh, I don't like that. Or, ooh, that really bothers me, right? That triggers me. Ooh, that's a boundary that I have that I didn't know I had. Okay. That's all conflict is. Conflict is not what we automatically think it is, which is, oh, they are intentionally trying to piss us off. That is literally something that I used to think. And on my most tired days where I'm not taking care of myself and I'm just run down, that's my go to is like, oh, he did that on purpose. He's annoying me on purpose. But really, like, does that make any sense? Someone who loves you is annoying you on purpose, right? And not in the fun way. I do love to annoy my husband in a fun way, but like purposely annoying you to upset you, no, I highly doubt they're doing that. If they are doing that, there's a bigger issue at hand, okay? And so if you're not experiencing conflict in a way where it's like, okay, this is a problem that we need to sort out, and you're not walking away from that situation feeling closer, feeling more connected, feeling like you guys have grown and you know each other better, then the best mindset that you can adopt starting now and like up until forever is curiosity. Okay. Without curiosity, you're going to continue going around and around as if you're in this hamster wheel of death, of stress, frustration, resentment for the rest of your marriage. Okay? Once you start to apply curiosity into your marriage, though, that's when things can expand. That's when things get brought into your purview, and you're like, oh, I didn't think about it that way. Oh, I have more perspective to this now. You become more open minded instead of closed minded, right? Instead of getting defensive or aggressive or passive aggressive, it opens up the floor for more conversation to happen so that you are more compassionate and things are less critical, and both of you are more willing to participate in the conversation rather than feeling you have to have your defenses up and you two are fighting against each other, right? I always say, if you're going to fight, fight for each other. Fight for the marriage. Don't fight against each other. Okay, you two are in this together, and it is so important to remember that you two are a team. And adopting the mindset of curiosity helps you accomplish that. Okay, curiosity can lead to deeper connection, better understanding, and prevent your marriage from going stale, from getting to a place where resentment is the only thing that you feel towards each other, preventing yourselves from turning into co-parenting roommates, but staying in that realm of, ooh, things are still fun. Things are still flirty and playful and connected, and we're still feeling like we're dating, okay? Despite what you might see around you from your parents' marriage, your friends' marriages, your siblings' marriages, just because you're married doesn't mean that you stop dating, okay? In fact, once you have kids in the picture, it is even more important to remember to date, okay? So let's take a step back and define what curiosity means in the world of relationships, okay? Curiosity is not, why did you do that? Or what were you thinking? How could you be so dumb? No, okay? That's not curiosity. Those might be questions, and you might genuinely be wondering what the answer is to those questions, but that is a question that is actually masked judgment. Okay? Like, I want you to think about how that felt when I asked those questions. You're probably like immediately tensing up, like, ugh, I don't feel like this is an open conversation right now. I feel judged. I feel criticized. I feel talked down to, right? None of these are aspects of a conversation with someone that is open to hearing you out, someone that is thinking highly of you. Okay. This is coming from someone who's like so hurt, but taking it out on you rather than leaving the door open for you to share your side of things without feeling like you're going to get pounced on and attacked. Okay. When someone asks those questions, it's almost like you're walking into a trap, and it's not a good one. Okay. When you are using the power of curiosity, that means that you are completely open. You are open to hearing what they have to say, which means you are not interrupting them. You are not judging them. You are allowing them to get everything out, and you are giving them the benefit of the doubt, right? You are wondering genuinely, I wonder how we got here. I wonder why my husband thought that this was the best course of action to take. Am I missing information? Am I not thinking of something? Right? Or did he forget something? What was going on with him that led him to think that this was the best way? Right? So it's an openness to hear them out, to learn, to discover and understand. It all has a layer of compassion flowing through without it, okay? So curiosity and compassion. It's always led by empathy. It's led by conscious communication. Okay. If you don't know what I mean by conscious communication, that means that you are not allowing your emotions to drive the conversation. You're not being reactive, right? You're letting your emotions be a source of information, but not the main driver of how you're responding, how you are taking in the information, but rather you are truly trying to understand from their perspective what happened without you just sitting in your shoes, judging them for not being like you. Okay. And when you're able to do this, this creates so much more intimacy, emotional intimacy, the closeness that you feel, which could then lead to more physical intimacy. Because we as women, when we feel like our emotional intimacy bucket is filled, we are more willing and wanting to be physically intimate, because being physically intimate to us is one of the more vulnerable things that we can do in a relationship. Okay. Whereas men, they are very physical beings, right? And for them to feel close to us, they need that physical aspect of the relationship for them to feel safe to be emotionally open with us. Okay. So I want to share a story about a couple that I worked with. So this couple have been married for years, okay? And they've been together since school years. And what happens when you're together for so long is that you start assuming that you know each other like the back of your hand, which is, by the way, such a strange thing because I don't really know the back of my hand that well. Every time I look at it, I'm like, oh, it's a new spot, or oh, it needs some lotion because it looks dry, right? So, anyway, after you are married for so long or you're together with your spouse for so long, you really think that there's nothing more to learn about each other. You just know each other so well because you know how they're going to react. You know how they take their eggs, you know how they take their coffee, you know what movies they like, etc. Yeah, you do know a lot about each other, but you stop being curious because you assume that you know every single thing about the person. But this assumption is dangerous because when you're at a point where you are afraid to bring things up, have those harder conversations, you assume that your partner is going to react a certain way. And if you are not using the curiosity mindset, you can quickly judge why they did certain things, which will then spiral your mind out of control with thoughts of why they did those things. You are building this narrative in the background of, let's say your spouse didn't come outside to help you bring in the groceries this one time. Because normally, when they hear the garage door open and they know that you went to the grocery store, that you are going to need some help. But instead, the garage door opened, no one's coming out, and you're struggling to bring all the groceries in. And if you're like me, you're a one-trip gal with all these like indents from the plastic bags because it's so heavy on your fingers. And you go in and you're just like huffing and puffing. You are so annoyed. Like, what the hell? Where did he go? Why isn't he helping me? How rude, how inconsiderate. Doesn't he know how much I do for this family? The least he can do is help me bring in these groceries, right? On and on and on. Meanwhile, your husband is like sitting on the couch relaxing, and you see him and you're like, ugh. And it just pisses you off even more because you're like, the nerve. He's relaxing. And I just came back from buying groceries. I'm about to cook. And he's just sitting there when he knows that the garage door opened and he didn't come out and help me. What kind of partner is he? Who did I marry? Right? And so all of these thoughts are just flooding your brain, and you're becoming angrier and angrier, and your partner has zero clue what's happening. And he notices you're home and he greets you as normal. Hey, how's it going? Big smile on his face. And you're like, it was fine. And you were short with him, and you are slamming cabinet doors, throwing the groceries in the fridge aggressively. And he's like, what is happening? Right? And so he has the nerve to ask you, is everything okay? And you bite his head off. Okay? This is a prime example of how having the mindset of curiosity could have saved what is going to happen next, right? Because what normally happens next is a fight breaks out, right? You criticize him for being not helpful, for not noticing all the things you do and how tired you are. And all of a sudden, you are bringing things up that have nothing to do with what triggered you to be upset in the first place, right? You start to pile everything on, all the things that you've been upset about that you didn't allow yourself to bring up because you just kind of excused it, right? And meanwhile, he feels like he's being blasted with like 100-mile wind. And he's like, what the hell just happened here? I was not expecting any of that. And so maybe he gets defensive. Well, you didn't do this. And what do you mean I don't do anything? I just did this and that and this and that. And so then it becomes a battle of the egos instead of you just sharing how you love when he helps you bring the groceries in. Instead of you adopting the curiosity mindset and wondering, oh, I wonder how come he didn't come out this time. He must be busy. He must not have noticed that I came home, right? You could have walked in and said, hey, can I get some help with the groceries, please? Or, hey, I'm home with the groceries. Can someone help, please? And all that could have been avoided. Okay? Curiosity, like, don't underestimate the power of it. Instead of a 10, 20, 30-minute, hour-long, whatever, exchange of tension, of anger, frustration, resentment, disconnect, you could have had 30 seconds of just expressing what you needed, giving him the benefit of the doubt, and then getting the help that you needed, or being informed of why he's not able to help right now. I'm on a call. I'm in the bathroom. I'm helping so-and-so do this, right? Or maybe he's asleep for some reason. Maybe he's just really tired. Okay? Like this morning, for example. My husband didn't wake up on time to help with getting the kids to school. Past me would have been like, what the fuck? I can't believe he's making me do this by myself. I am so stressed out right now. Doesn't he know how difficult this is? Doesn't he know that I need him to get this done? Doesn't he know that I need to eat my breakfast before I do this? Doesn't he know I have a meeting? Right? But instead, I got curious, right? I woke up, I'm like, how come he's not in bed? And I walked downstairs and like, oh, this guy's passed out in the living room. I wonder if he had to work really late and he just like didn't get to bed because he was so tired and he had so much to do and just ended up plopping down in the living room because he didn't want to wake me up. Or because he didn't have the energy to shower and didn't want to go into bed without showering. And so I gave him the benefit of the doubt because majority of the time, he's in there in the trenches with me. He's being my partner. So remembering who he is and his character allowed me to give him the benefit of the doubt. And so instead, I carried on. I did what I could. And when I needed help, I said something, right? got my son ready, I did things, and then I was like, hey, are you okay? Did you not get very much sleep? He's like, yeah, I got like 1 hour of sleep. I was like, ooh, that sucks. I'm really sorry to hear that. I'm going to go do this right now. I'm going to take him to school. Are you able to do this? He's like, yeah. He's like, sorry, I'm not helping. I'm like, I get it. You're tired, right? So I filled in. This is what it means to be 100-100 in a marriage, by the way, okay? Marriage is not 50-50. 50-50 means I'm going to do exactly half, and I'm expecting you to do exactly half. That kind of mindset is very much like tit for tat, right? I'm only going to give if you give. And if you give a little, I'm going to give a little. But when I say marriage is 100-100, it means giving your full 100 every single day. And knowing that your 100 can vary. And so can your husband's, right? So, for example, today, knowing that my husband is so sleep deprived and work has been kicking his butt, his 100 is very little compared to normal, compared to when work isn't so busy, compared to when he has a full night of sleep. Okay. And so I know that in order to keep this ship running, or should I say sailing, I'm going to do more. Or I'm going to make things easier and take shortcuts and lower our standards, like making a simpler dinner, having less expectations of ourselves, delaying folding laundry, doing whatever we need to do to make sure that we are mentally well, physically well, emotionally well, and not putting so much pressure on ourselves because we are not firing on all cylinders. Okay? That is an example of using curiosity as your mindset. And what it means to be a true partner is giving your 100. Okay? Now, if you're in a place of resentment and you're like, well, why should I give my 100 if my partner doesn't give 100? Guess what? When you don't give 100, nothing is inspiring them to give their 100 at all. And if you're like, well, I have been giving 100 and they haven't been giving 100, then continue giving 100 and have boundaries in place. Have important conversations about what you both need from each other as partners to want to show up for each other. Because maybe there's some other things that haven't been discussed that you're not aware of. Maybe he hasn't been getting what he needs from you out of the marriage. And so he's kind of given up, right? There are a million reasons why he might not be showing up for you. So again, use that sense of curiosity and figure out why. Learn more about each other. Okay. So now I'm going to share with you how to use curiosity in a more practical way. Okay. Because curiosity really does help avoid and diffuse tension. It prevents reacting because you're asking questions to understand more. When people feel like you want to understand, they don't feel the need to defend. Okay? If you haven't heard this from me before, this is a great saying, phrase, motto, I don't know, whatever, or approach for you to live by in your marriage, or even just all relationships in general. Okay? Are you ready? Seek to understand before being understood. When we meet people where they're at and show genuine desire to understand them, they're going to open up. They're not going to feel like, oh, I have to grip this weapon, this shield of mine, and keep it up. I have to build this big wall to safeguard myself. If you're coming in with open arms and wanting to learn, they're going to be like, oh, they're going to relax their shoulders. They're going to be more willing to share because they don't feel like they're going to get attacked. Okay? So, phrases or questions like, can you help me understand what you're feeling right now? Or can you tell me more about why this is important to you? Or hey, I thought that this was going to happen. What happened? Right? And your tone matters too, right? Because I could use that same exact phrase like, I thought you were going to help me. What happened? Like, obviously, that is not conducive to an open conversation. Okay. So watch your tone and make sure that the phrases that you're using, questions that you're asking are very neutral. You're not attacking, you're not judging, right? You're like, oh, I was really hoping that this was going to happen today, but I noticed that it didn't. Is everything okay? I mean, that's the best possible question you can ask. Is everything okay? Is everything all right? Did something happen? Because then you're like assuming that if everything was fine and normal, they would have done that. But obviously, something's off, something's different, and you're wondering what that is. Okay. So, adopting this curiosity mindset is going to save your marriage and help it continue to grow because you're no longer making assumptions. You're no longer assuming the worst. You're no longer contributing to the resentment that might be building in your mind because you're leaving room to hearing something that would dispute all those assumptions that you might be making in your head without communicating. Okay. So, curiosity is what helps you get closer together, it's what builds connection. Okay. Because when you're assuming something negative, they're not going to feel good about that. They're going to feel like they need to defend themselves or attack you back. But with curiosity and open communication, you're saying, hey, I'm open to hearing something different than what I'm assuming. I'm open to hearing a different perspective because I have a positive intention towards this conversation. Okay. So, anytime you feel like you are about to make an assumption and you notice your monkey brain has all these things spinning out of control, just stop and ask yourself, I wonder what happened. What if that isn't what happened, right? Because you can't always stop those things from going on in your head, but you can stop and say, okay, that's one scenario. What's another scenario that could have happened, right? You got to train yourself to consider other options and then ask your partner, hey, what happened? Okay. Another way you can apply the curiosity mindset to your marriage is actually being curious with yourself. Okay. When you're curious with yourself, you are building your self awareness. Just like how I said, what if there's another version of this? What if there's a different scenario that could be happening, right? Your brain can be spinning up a million assumptions, and that is one possible way that all this went down. And there are other possible ways that it could have gone down, which you cannot confirm until you bring it up with your partner. But another way that you can be curious with yourself is actually wondering about your triggers. What about this situation made me mad, sad, frustrated, annoyed, angry, happy? When you're curious with yourself, then you can start to dive into what it is about that situation that has you reacting the way that you did, right? So let's say all of a sudden you find yourself snapping at your partner. And after things have settled, and you're like, wow, I really went hard on him. I wonder why I did that. What about that situation led me to do that? Right? And you can maybe think of something in your past that happened that it reminded you of. Or maybe you can think of, wow, I was actually really tired and hungry at that point. Or, wow, I've been really burned out lately, right? Either way, when you invite curiosity into your relationship, you can learn so much more about yourself, so much more about your partner. And when you have more information to use, that's when you can make more informed and intentional decisions to support your marriage. So you can set better boundaries. You can take better care of yourself. You can be more attuned to your partner's triggers and emotions and needs and wants, right? Like, oh, his routine got disrupted, so he felt off, right? Men thrive on their routines. And so when we know more about what's going on underneath the surface, we can navigate the world, our relationships, ourselves with so much more grace, compassion, and intention. And things just end up better that way, right? We're not constantly reacting and we're not setting ourselves up for a trap to experience the same thing over and over and over again because we are learning. And when we learn from our mistakes, or quote unquote mistakes, that's when things change, right? Our outcome changes. We then open ourselves up to experience something new in the relationship. Maybe more calm, more contentment, more fulfillment, more satisfaction. And so ask yourself, what can you learn about yourself, about your partner, about your marriage in every situation that you're feeling triggered by? And when I say triggered, anytime you get mad, anytime you get frustrated, upset, those are opportunities. Those are like those flags waving up in the air. Hey, this is a milestone that you can take advantage of. But it really is up to you to take advantage of them. Because if you're not, then you're going to keep being presented with the same lesson over and over and over again. And trust me, I had to become a better communicator, that I had to learn my limits and I had to start setting boundaries. It's painful to have to go through the same lessons over and over and over again. So free yourself from this pain by applying curiosity, by being curious with yourself, being curious with your husband, being curious about what's going on and learning from it. Use it and squeeze all the juice that you can out of the situation and turn lemons into lemonade. Because when we do this, we benefit so much, and so do all of our loved ones. I also wanted to share creative ways for you to cultivate and nurture curiosity in your marriage so that curiosity exists in all facets of your marriage. Date each other, okay? Remember when you're dating, you're constantly learning about each other, whether you're talking to each other, learning about your childhood, learning about your dreams, your goals, doing new things together, a new hobby, learning a new skill, you're doing a new activity, okay? Asking open questions. It helps you get to know your partner in a new light. So that way you never feel like you know your person 100%. Because guess what? You won't ever. This is just a never ending journey that you get to be on because we are changing all the time. Think about how much you've grown in the last week, month, year, 5 years, 10 years. Okay? How would you like it if someone were like, no, you're going to be like this forever? You know that phrase growing up? I don't know if you had this, but in our yearbooks, they'd be like, never change. I plan on changing forever for the positive, obviously, right? But we're constantly changing. So for someone to assume that you're not going to change and you're locked into who you are forever, that is very insulting because we all have things to work on. Wouldn't you rather have someone see the good in you, see the potential in you, and know that you can grow from where you are today? So if you're doing these things like dating them and asking questions to get to know them better and doing new things together to discover things that you never known about them before, like, oh, they're really good at playing basketball. Oh, they're really good at knitting. Oh, wow, surprisingly, you're really good at braiding hair. When you are creating a platform or an environment for them to show you a new side of them, curiosity will become more ingrained in how you navigate your marriage. Okay? So adopt the mindset of curiosity. It will help you navigate your challenges so much easier. It will help you quiet your mind from the nasty narrative that you might be spinning that says that your husband is a complete shithead when things aren't going the way you were hoping. It will prevent you from getting into fights that don't need to be fights. It will help you ask for what you need in a more direct manner so that you can get what you need and just avoid the fight altogether. And it will help your spouse feel more safe and open to be emotionally intimate with you, to be more vulnerable with you. Okay, so go try this out. Let me know how it goes. This is the best mindset you can have. So if you're looking for a hack for your marriage, it's this. Okay, curious with yourself, curious with your spouse. And I can't wait to hear how this helps your marriage and how it changes the trajectory of your relationship and your future for years to come. And if you know someone that this episode can help, please share this with them. You sharing this podcast is what helps this show grow. And if you are really loving this show, please leave a rating and review on iTunes. I would be forever grateful. I absolutely love reading what you guys have to share and how this show impacts you and your life. And that's it. I'll catch you back here on the next episode. Bye. That's it for this episode. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed making it. If you did, please send me a message over on Instagram at Michelle Perta Coaching to let me know what you loved most about it. Hearing from my listeners is my absolute favorite. And if you've been loving this podcast, please leave a rating and review. This will help people like you find the show and get the help they need. Catch you here on the next episode. Bye.